Hello everyone, this is Matthew with Evidence-Based Faith. Thank you for coming onto my channel. Today I'm actually going to be responding to a question that Cosmicskeptic had asked Jonathan McLatchie in a debate recently. So here's the question, and I quote, "I want to ask what might seem a very silly or frivolous question, but it's not. If God asked you to shoot up a primary school, would you do so?" End quote. Now, basically, Jonathan McLatchie responds by saying he didn't believe that this was consistent with God's moral character, therefore he wasn't going to answer the question. But then later on in the discussion, Cosmicskeptic points out that whichever way you answer the question, it demonstrates something wrong with the position you're holding. And I would actually have to agree and say yes to that, but that's only because the question itself has an underlying assumption, which is that it would be possible for God to ask someone to do such a thing to begin with. But that hasn't been demonstrated. So this is what you would call a false dichotomy, because you're being presented with two options when in fact there is a third option. And that third option is that God wouldn't ask someone to do such a thing, because it would violate his moral character. So before someone could coherently ask a question like this, they would first have to demonstrate that it would even be possible for God to ask someone to do something like this. They can't just assume it into the very question that they're asking. That's nothing short of begging the question. Because as a Christian, I would argue that it's not possible for God to ask someone to shoot up a primary school, since he is the very standard of morality. Now, if someone wants to try and argue against that, they can, but they can't ask a question that has an underlying assumption. Now, when it comes to situations like this, I think it's very important for Christians to pay attention when they're being asked hypothetical questions, because a lot of times the person asking the question might smuggle in an underlying assumption within the question itself. And if that's the case, then the Christian is justified in not responding to the question, just like Jonathan McLatchie was in this debate, but rather we should point out the problem with the question and explain why it's incoherent. Well, guys, that's the video. Let me know what you think, and remember to like and subscribe.